Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 28 of the Launch Sequence podcast. I am your host, Keenan. You can also call me Tomato. And I'm here with Jack Axton, a well-known king of cargo and economy, and one of the go-to sources for pricing and information regarding all those kinds of things in Star Citizen. How you doing, dude?
Matt, I am not too bad. Thank you for having me on today, Keenan.
Of course.
I do appreciate it, but yeah, it's been a pretty good day so far. Doing all right. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm great. I am good. And before we get started today, I actually had a couple of little podcast statistics that I'm a little proud about. Spotify decided to send to us recently, and I wanted to tell, obviously, the amazing people who do listen to this podcast about them. So we, let's see, are at about an estimated audience of over 260 people, which is insane to me, which is freaking awesome. Thank you guys so much. Warms my heart, my tomato seeds. And 19 people apparently listen to this podcast more than any other one on Spotify. You guys are what drives this forward. Thank you for that. It kind of blows my mind. And to be honest, a lot of that comes from the people who come on to this podcast. I am just a person who invites them and talks to them. But everybody who's come on here so far has been amazing with conversation and topics and just being very interesting. And, you know, Jack, now I've set the stage. You better not mess it up, man.
Hey, I will do my best. Congratulations.
Thank you.
By the way, that's good stuff. Like, even getting on Spotify, period, that's a testament right there, man. Congrats.
Oh, I appreciate it. And I know you won't actually mess it up. We've talked for like 5 minutes already about cargo hauling, and I'm pumped. So I think you guys are going to like this episode. First, though, before we get into that kind of stuff, I do it with everybody, and I want to know... Well, actually, I'm going to start before that. I want to talk to you about YouTube. You stream on YouTube, which not many people do. Why is that? Why'd you decide on doing that?
I wish I could say it was something about, like, metrics or whatever, but it's honestly because I'm lazy. I already had a YouTube channel, and I didn't see the point in having to set up a whole other platform for streaming. Mm-hmm. So I thought, you know what? I can stream, do videos all in the same place. I'll just do that. And it just kind of ended up working out, you know?
It's a very, very straightforward reason. And a good one. I mean, like, it makes complete sense. That's what I'm going to do. Like, I don't need to split myself between two. I could just focus on one. But yeah, I get that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, why have like 3 or 4 different platforms when it's easier just to have the one?
Right. So now that we've got that out of the way, the real question that I ask everybody when they come on here is really, what brought you to Star Citizen? What was your history of gaming? Were you a freelancer person, or did you just like space games in general? Like, I came from Xbox, so I didn't know any of Chris Roberts' stuff before. I've seen all kinds of stories. What's yours?
Oh man, I'm actually kind of the same way. I never actually heard of Chris Roberts. Where I grew up, like, gaming was kind of hard to get a hold of. Mm-hmm. But the first PC I ever had, which was older than I was like this old 85 Packard Bell. And yeah, exactly, Packard. But I had this game called Solar Winds 2 on floppy drive, which, again, pretty sure that floppy drive was older than I was.
The old floppies, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, it was a space game, and I didn't really have a lot of exposure to a lot of sci-fi stuff, mm-hmm. like Star Wars, things like that. And like the few space games that I got a hold of, you know, I was enamored with, but there wasn't really a lot of sci-fi, and especially like in, you know, like the late 2000s, 2010 era, there wasn't really a lot of that. But mm-hmm. I finally got around to building a PC finally that wasn't, you know, like some Toshiba laptop or whatever, mm-hmm. and getting back into serious PC gaming. And I was kind of looking for like a you know, a sci-fi MMO, and EVE Online wasn't really there for me. Vendetta was ancient at that time.
I haven't even heard of Vendetta.
Yeah, no, Vendetta, like, it's a neat little, you know, game, but it's one of those where it's like there's 12 players.
Okay.
You know, they're still kind of keeping it going, but it's not exactly big.
Yeah.
But
one of those,
you know, like,
cult classics.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, it's like it's nice, but you know, if you've never played it, you're probably not going to get into it. Mm-hmm. But I had seen the Kickstarter for back when it was still Squadron 42, and I had initially passed on it in 2012. It's like, it's single player. I'm looking more of a multiplayer experience, something I can play with friends. And then 2014 rolls around. I was like, oh, what's this? What is this beautiful looking game with these Space Ford commercials for this freelancer? Like that's what sold me.
The freelancer,
the Space Ford,
classic.
You got dual colloid ion engines.
That was I was literally going to reference that while we were talking today. That is like
that's it. That commercial sold me. Like, seeing that they did the car commercial quality style for advertising the spaceships, or like, the knockoff Jeremy Clarkson.
Yeah, exactly.
With Jax McCleary, and that's what sold me. So I think I ended up picking up a 325A, telling myself like, oh, this is all I'm gonna spend. Like, this is already more than what I normally spend on a game. I won't spend it that. Oh man, if I could have gone back in time.
Same exact ship, same exact thing.
Okay, so you know how I feel, man.
Yeah. I remember. That was like almost 8 years ago for me now. Jeez.
Yeah. 2014 for me. Yeah, like wow. October 10th, I want to say 2014.
Yeah, so we're around the same time. Like early, I think like early to mid 200,000s in terms of the number of signups, I think. Yeah. Around there. So that was an early time to get into it. Like, that was, you saw the commercials, you realized they were passionate about creating a cool space game, but it was before we had really gotten to see some of the more amazing things that we get to experience now, like planets and just a lot of the ships that we have, and like the way that the economies work and mining and all that stuff. Was that all just the cherry on top, or had you already looked into the game and realized that's where it was going?
Yeah, I mean, I actually started looking into it after seeing the commercials. Mm-hmm. And once I saw that there was actually going to be medical gameplay, I was, that's actually what got me into it, which that didn't last very long. I kind of shifted gears after a while. Clearly. But just seeing like, oh boy, you can cargo, you can fight, you can do all this other stuff. There's going to be medical.
Yeah.
Sign me up. Like I'll get me a space ambulance.
Yeah. And it's hard to... Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, just, seeing all the different things that you would actually be able to do instead of just like the three, usually like in all those space games, it's mining, trading, fighting. That's it. That's all you get to do.
Right.
And, Star Citizen was going to offer more. Mm-hmm. So that's what really got me into it.
Yeah. They went into detail and they got expansive and they really sold the vision. I was just talking to, I was getting some help with my internet here yesterday. And the guy was asking about the setup and like, oh, what are you broadcasting to people? And I told him it's Star Citizen. It's like this space game, and it's a multiplayer game. It's been in development a while. And he's like, so what exactly do you do in the game? Like, do you fight people, or are you like exploring, or what are you doing? And of course, I had to make the whole, well, you don't do much now because it's not finished yet joke, which obviously he didn't get because he doesn't know how long it's been in development. But then I told him, I was like, to be honest, I don't know how to define the things that you can do, because there's just more things popping up all over like, it's not, you could be somebody who literally just carries boxes back and forth to other ships, but there's not really a job for that. Like, you're not cargo hauling, you're just helping other people cargo haul. But that's what you can do in this game because there's so much detail. So I get what you're saying. Like, you look at this game and it's just like, well, you can't define one play style, and that's, I think, probably what makes it so attractive to so many people.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's less of a question of, what do you do, and more of a question of what do you want to do?
Yeah, which is cool. So let's get into the cargo hauling then. You said that you haven't really been in a game like this before, if I understand correctly. So that the whole tracking these prices and the market value and the state of trade, that's all just brand new kind of stuff, or is that stuff you were interested in games before?
Yeah, actually, it makes me feel silly to say it, but yeah, it actually is brand new. Like, I've played other games with, hauling and trading and stuff, like Elite Dangerous, but even before that, like, cargo hauling in games just never really interested me. Like, it was kind of hard to to keep up with, to wrap my head around. Like Star Citizen was really my first foray into it, and learning that was rough at first. But yeah, like that was literally my first stab at it, and I kind of tripped into it.
That's pretty impressive, because I think you've got it kind of locked down at this point. Obviously, the game's still far away, but you have like this format on your videos where the prices, the changes, and I know that must be a ton of work to keep track of that stuff. But for somebody who's just kind of jumping into it for the first time, it's really good, man.
Oh man, thank you. Like I'm going to admit it is a headache to keep track of.
I bet.
It is time consuming, but yeah, no, it is fun to play with. That's for sure.
You're creating a new profession. You're going to have the people who are doing the hauling, and then the people who are like figuring out what they should be hauling. And to be honest, is that something that you have aspirations to? Is like, do you want to continue to be the source of that and build upon it?
Like I've thought about it. I would like to, although honestly, I'm still kind of waiting for the in-game prices where you can actually see what prices are without having to go check everything.
Yeah,
because like the biggest issue. Yeah, exactly. Like let's go back to BlizzCon. It's like you're telling me I can't call up Humboldt Mines and see what the price is. Like, are you telling me these guys don't have phones? Like, it's $29.51. I can't be like, hey, Shubin Mining, what's the price of titanium? It's like, you just have to come down here and check.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's very annoying.
Like, you got a comm array that can narc on me as soon as I accidentally, hit somebody, but I can't use that same comm array to call an outpost and see the price of tungsten.
Right. You can't just like tell me what something costs next door real quick. Yeah, and obviously like it's a development thing, but that must definitely. So is that kind of are you waiting for that sort of functionality to make that decision?
I think so, because okay, so this is going to sound silly. As far as trading goes, I actually make less money now trading because I spend so much time, getting these prices and watching the trends, and it's not even really about the money for me. Like I don't care about the money. I enjoy the act of trading more than anything else, but I found myself actually making more cash trading back in the old trade model where the average profit margin was only 5% than I do now. And I think it's because, just spending all that time tracking these prices, because, you'll spend an hour and a half just in one system, just checking all the outposts. And, now that we've got Microtech, Crusader, ArtCorp, all those, it takes hours
to
check everything.
What would you say is the average profit margin right now?
It really depends. Okay, so the IAE was really bad for trade. Really bad. I wouldn't even want to say bad, just, since everyone has access to like free ships and free fly and whatnot. The economy can't even really support the standard amount of players that we have, much less, IAE and free C2s everywhere.
Yeah.
So while the average profit margin was around 20-ish% or a bit less going in, you're probably looking more at like 13 to 15% on the average margin. And, margins only matter so much. At a certain point, you have to look at the actual profit versus the margin.
Right.
But, profits tanked. Like, you will not see decent prices on titanium, astatine, diamond for a while.
I see. So that was the market responding to the amount of people? Or was that something that CIG was doing, do you think?
It was mostly just the market. CIG has actually been very hands-off with the economy.
Okay. But for everybody who's listening, you're confirming that there is a dynamic economy that's running in the game right now.
Yes, like for now, there is a 100% dynamic economy.
Okay.
It is 100% decided by players, and it's shared across all servers in all regions. So if someone in Russia buys out all the titanium at Humboldt Mines, you show up in 8 minutes to buy it. There's not going to be any titanium, even if you're in Australia.
Right, and the problem being that there's just not enough, like you were saying, not enough capacity for everybody to be doing that.
Yeah, exactly. They actually adjusted how it works. I don't know if you got time for for a bit of a history lesson.
Oh, please.
With that. But okay,
history.
so back in the day, when they first adjusted the economy 3.6 with the new prices, there were 3 separate economies by region: Australia, Europe, USA. And Europe had the worst because they have the most amount of players. So, more people on the same size economy. Australia had the best because there were just so few people. So a lot of people traded on the Australian servers.
Makes sense.
3.10, they actually rolled them all together. However, they didn't increase the refresh rates, the stocks, or the demand rates for anything. So they shoved 3 different economies into the size of one economy without increasing anything, and it has shown growing pains, and they have not touched it since.
Yeah. So I thought, or at least I think it was going around a little bit before IAE, people were saying, hey, it seems like demand has been, rather they've added more supply in, and things are starting to equal out a bit again. Was that kind of a false alarm, or was that just a very, very temporary fix? What happened there?
Yeah, it was a false alarm. So what happened was right before 3.15 went live, and 3.15 was cooking for a very long time.
Oh yeah,
in PTU, like a solid month.
Yeah,
but for that month, or at least a little bit before it, there was an issue for about the last 3 or 4 patches. Actually, it could have been since 3.6, and we just might not have noticed it because of the separated economies. But there was an issue where whenever a new server came online, like from a 30K or player overflow, whenever a new server would come online, it would actually remove commodities and demand from all other servers. So, for example, like most outposts, when they come online on a fresh server, they don't have full stock. They have like a percentage, like 1/3. But when it unifies with the refresh tick for the next update for how much is going out, the servers don't see that as a coming online. It counts those as a purchase. So if it has a maximum stock of like 100 SCU, but it spawns in with 30, it counts that as buying 70 and subtracts that from the purchase. So it wipes out from all other locations and all other servers. And with the server instability we have with 30Ks, things like that, with new servers coming online all the time across all regions, it pretty much explained why trade was terrible. Like, aluminum would be wiped out. Nobody touches aluminum. Aluminum is trash. But like, you'd show up to a place and they'd have like 40 SCU of aluminum because of that. But they fixed that. They did a hot fix on it where things would actually spawn in full, or at least it wouldn't self-consume. But they did that at the tail end of 3.14. 3.15 had a wipe. Since 3.15 had a wipe, right. Nobody was trading. So, there's 3 or 4 people in 3.14 trading. They go, oh, hey, look, stock is good. It's like, no, it's just, there's nobody trading.
Right.
So once 3.15 came back online, you've got people hitting the trade lanes once again. And it's the first wipe we've had in 18 months. So everyone's out there trying to make money.
Yeah.
And,
I was one of them. I was doing
exactly. That. I mean, you and me both, like I had a really great run of some acetine, titanium in like the first 3 hours, and then it all went to crap.
Same old.
So just, it's that thing where it looks like it's good because nobody's doing it, but the demand quickly outstripped the supply.
Yeah.
And now we're pretty much back to where we were.
Yeah, it was just a market without much labor. Then the labor showed up and they were like, no, stop. Please stop. We don't have any more.
Exactly. Or like, like the drug economy. The drug economy is still terrible. Mm-hmm. It's been the same since 3.5.1. They haven't touched it.
That's a bummer. And I'm guessing this is stuff that's just not going to happen until the cargo refactor. I think that's what everybody's kind of assuming at this point, yeah? Is that...
Yeah.
You thinking there might be more?
Yeah, like... the cargo refactor... the thing that's worried me about it the most, they always mention, they never really call it the refactor, they call it like, cargo physicalization. Mm-hmm. And it kind of feels like the refactor is just being more tacked on than really invested in. But maybe that's just me being pessimistic. Because it always seems like the detail is in the physicalization rather than the actual updating of how the economy works. And I know that's going to be quantum and things like that, but...
Well, yeah, if you go to the actual card itself on the progress tracker, I think the description says something like It allows both found and purchased cargo to be picked up, moved around, and placed into the cargo grid of a ship. So, you're right. It does seem like they're really focusing more on the fact that this is just making cargo interactable rather than fixing the overall system.
Yeah, and I mean, I know they only use one sentence to describe the release view. Like they're not exactly like books or anything, but it seems like it's definitely more of a focus on the physicalization than the actual overhaul, which we still need. It's an alpha. I can't complain too much as much as I want to.
We are here to basically make sure that they know it's broken and they know it's broken. I do hope, though, that we get a solid, reliable economy at this stage in alpha. I know that's asking for a good amount, but it would be nice if, at least if it's not the cargo refactor itself, maybe we're looking at Quantum picking up a little more of the slack to take over the supply and demand there.
Exactly. Like there's so many squandered commodities in the game.
Yeah.
And I know the commodities are just arbitrary names assigned to numbers, but there are things that just nobody touches, like aluminum, iodine, things like that. There's no reason to haul them except to go, well, I can say that I did it, and I would like to see a reason to move those things.
Yeah. So that's actually a nice little segue for, I wanted to talk about like minerals and harvestables. And you said, nobody takes aluminum anywhere. Aluminum's dumb. We don't need it. But somebody has to use it, right? Like ships and stuff. They have to use it. So it sounds like you're kind of seeing a future where something that's worthless like aluminum, that miners will get 100% aluminum rock and say no. We'll eventually have reasons to want to get that rock, give it to the cargo haulers who are taking it to the sites. You see an economy where every material kind of has that sort of value, or do you think there's always going to be a meta that pushes something out of the market, like aluminum?
I mean, ideally, I would like to see a value for everything. Like taking metals to R&Rs to be used for ship repairs, or paying premiums for hydrogen. Finding reasons to do those out of the way routes, like corundum. Who uses corundum? I don't know, but I would love to see a reason to freight it somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Because right now, our biggest issue is that the economy is focused on just transporting raw materials to port cities. And, eventually there'll be a stage where you have manufactured goods that you get to take back out. But it's all going one way right now. It's all going to port cities. Every now and then you've got a run that's outpost to outpost, like fluorine, chlorine to medical supplies or medical outposts, or, running like 5 units of stims somewhere. But, I want to see an economy where instead of just some meta where it's like, oh, laranite, just run laranite.
Yeah.
I want to see a reason to freight other things. Like, I don't touch laranite. I don't. Like, it's a great cargo. I'm not going to touch it. Like, I'm going to fill up on something else, Like, yeah, I'm going to make less money, but I'm risking a lot less. I want a reason to fill up on hydrogen, on chlorine, on something else. I want to be able to go, hey, I'm going to point A, then I'm going to go to point B, then C, then D, instead of just repeating the same run.
Yeah. Setting up trade, that I think that's really the dream of cargo haul like that. Nobody really gets to take part in. To be honest, I was going to ask you, how do you even find trade routes in this game right now? Because from what I can understand, it's basically just picking and guessing and seeing how much profit you make on one versus another, right?
Pretty much. Like if you're not using third-party websites, you're kind of just stumbling around. Like there are no real. Okay, I say that they've got the whole journal entry thing now,
sure,
for some prices, but aside from that, there is no way to find that out in game. And the journal update they have is very limited. Mm-hmm. It tracks like processed food, distilled spirits, and medical supplies, which distilled spirits and medical supplies have some of the worst refresh rate for legal commodities. So you're usually not going to see an update on those medical supplies because it only updates whenever they're understock for demand or overstock on supply, and they're not going to be overstocked on supply anytime soon. The refresh rate, I think, is like 3,000 units per minute, which is terrible.
Yeah, considering how many people are going to be
exactly, and everyone shows up with a Caterpillar or a C2 They buy all the medical supplies. They pad it out with stems, and then they leave. So that update is useless. Processed food is only even mildly worth it in a bulk hauler. Like if you're in something smaller than a caterpillar, you're not going to touch it.
Right.
And then for distilled spirits, same thing with medical supplies. Like the refresh rate is terrible. I think last time I checked it, the price on distilled spirits was like $4.66. Base price is $4.06. So it is just astronomically overfreighted right now. So like, great. You guys only have 3 things that are updating for prices, and 2 of those are useless to 99% of the people out there. And the other one is only useful if you're in a bulk hauler. So good job. Good job. Other than that, no way to find out anything in game.
Yeah.
You have to go to Galog, SC Trade Tools, UEX, one of those, just to find out anything as far as pricing or where to take it.
It's really a bummer because it feels like the definition of an alpha feature. Like the gameplay is there. Cargo hauling is clearly an expansive thing with a lot of little pieces that can be mixed in. We have like box missions. We have, haul on your own dime. We've got dangerous cargo. We've got minerals, harvestables, cargo decks, like all this stuff that could combine to make a great game loop. But like they just haven't had the time to tie it all together. It really sucks.
Yeah, exactly. And like I understand because cargo hauling isn't flashy.
Yeah.
Like mining, you can show off mining. Like there's lasers, the rocks explode. Like that makes a great episode for Inside Star Citizen.
Yeah.
Bounty hunting, there's lasers. Cargo hauling, what do you do? You go, hey guys, there's some new boxes. They're blue.
Nobody's ever released a movie trailer with like some cool music and somebody just like carrying a box to another ship.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Space Truckers wasn't the best movie in the world. I love it. But it's not the best movie in the world. It's not exactly a glamorous thing to show off in a trailer, So I understand why they don't really pitch it to people, but
sure. Well,
like
everybody knows that people are pumped for cargo hauling. I mean, it's the backbone of the entire game. You can find like everybody wants to cargo haul. But like you said, it's not flashy. So like cargo hauling is going to do a lot to fill out the amount of stuff that people can do to play the game, but I guess maybe they just won't sell ships as well. It's also, like I said, it's alpha, so they've got it to a place maybe where they're happy with it, and they want to wait for everything else to catch up.
Yeah, like the mechanics work, and I think the biggest issue right now, you don't really worry about balancing in an alpha. So they know the mechanics for cargo hauling works. Like you show up to a terminal, you buy your boxes, you fly somewhere, you sell them.
Yeah.
The mechanics are there; they're established. As far as any sort of economy work, that falls into balance, and I know they're not worried about it. I just, again, I feel like I should have a reason to haul like 90% of the stuff in the game. There's only like 6 commodities people actually worry about.
Yeah. So do you think that maybe selling will change that? Because suddenly, when they bring online selling, you don't have to haul cargo to get that same experience of transporting to make money. You could literally go into a bunker, kill a bunch of people, take all their armor and guns, and then return it to a shop, and you're kind of cargo hauling in that way. Could that be something that draws people away from the traditional cargo hauling that they've been doing?
Oh yeah, I think so. Like that'll be super fun right there. Because one, I mean, it's fun to be a loot goblin. There are people that enjoy just grabbing absolutely everything they can.
Filling it up, yeah.
Exactly. And, going to go sell it. And, if you think about it, really, that's the real tier 0 salvage right there. It's just, locally, like farmers market sourcing all those supplies, just,
It's funny terminology for the scenario.
Yeah, it's locally sourced. It's all from your artisanal nine tails.
From bunker to table.
Exactly. Bunker farms. But yeah, like I think that'll take some of the stress off of it. Yeah, I just that's what I want to see. And like I feel like that'll also factor into the they got hangars I think coming up in 3.17.
Right. Yeah, hangars. That's
store cargo.
Mm-hmm. That's a big one. So that's actually originally I had contacted Jack. I've been wanting to have him on here to talk about cargo for like 5 months. But I was like, you know what? We're going to wait for the perfect time. We're going to nail this down right before the cargo refactor. It's going to be perfect. We're going to be talking about the stuff they're showing on ISC. We're going to be hitting it off. Yeah, it's going to be great. And then they delayed it. So we don't get to talk about those in terms of what they've told us. But the hangar is definitely a big part in that I think a lot of people kind of either slept on or just didn't hear about. Can you talk a little bit about how these hangars are going to factor into cargo gameplay?
Well, I could be entirely wrong here because
development
up to your
and all
knowledge.
That.
Yeah. But hangars that's going to essentially be like your you store it. So any sort of cargo you happen to have, you can actually store it in those hangars. So that's kind of the precursor to that cargo system refactor, at least like the physicalization of it. Because before you can really move all that stuff around, you gotta have a place you can put it.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could do the thing right now where you just keep it on a ship and just never claim that ship, but they actually want, inventory options for it. So, the hangar is supposed to factor into that. So
right.
Let's say you ethically source some titanium, through whatever means. And, you either got to sit on it for a while or you want to give it to your buddy, Jim Bob, who's not on the server right now, so you just take it back ethical. Yeah, he's also ethically sourcing various things.
Good people.
Yeah. And, you take it back to your hangar and you store it. That way you can sit on it. Ideally, either for, not giving to a fence or a third-party redistributor, as we could put it.
A vendor.
Or, yeah, a vendor. I like that. Let's go with vendor. Or, waiting for prices to get better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the first tier of it. Before you can move all that stuff, you got to have a place to put it.
Yeah.
So that's what that's going to be.
And a big part of that is actually people are constantly talking about, hey, we're getting all this money. People are buying all this money. Like, people are getting rich. What is all that money going to be spent on? We can't just keep buying ships. It's going to be things like that. You're going to be paying money to store your ships in hangars. You're going to be paying money to keep your cargo in hangars. Docking fees, all that stuff, that's going to start adding up. So for cargo haulers, I think it's going to be really cool as you start to factor in, okay, well, I can buy this material at this price because it's really good, but am I going to be able to get it out of my hangar and, sell it in this system for a lower price? Like, is the price going to drop there fast enough that I won't be losing money on the storage fees? And oh my gosh, the logistics.
It's one of those things. Like, how long do you sit on it? Do you wait for that price to get better? Do you pay those storage fees?
Mm-hmm.
And paying to have it loaded onto your ship too, if you don't feel like being the person to load it yourself. Yeah, like that's the thing. Like, we have all these ways to make money, but we don't really have those credit sinks in game yet.
Yeah.
I bought quantum fuel for my Pisces the other day. It was 38 credits. Wow. Like, I went across the system for cheaper than it cost me to buy a T-shirt in game. Like, there's
Jeez.
Something needs to be adjusted there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's very exciting. Those are the kinds of, and it's cool because you've been around for a while, Jack. You know this. We haven't been able to have conversations about that stuff before, but they're starting to finally get to this point where they're adding the first steps of these complex systems we've been talking about this whole time. I mean, hangars, like you said, is scheduled for 317. Good chance it won't come in that patch, let's be honest, but it's scheduled.
Yeah, like the roadmap is more of a roadmap quest. Like, it'll kind of get you in the area, but it might not get you there.
Map quest, yeah. Like the early Apple Maps roadmap. But they it's sort of like a, hey, we're working on this and it might end up in this area, but it also probably won't, so just keep that in mind. I usually say just stick to the monthly reports if you want to know what's actually coming up. That's usually the best in my opinion.
Yeah, like the roadmap is one of those things like, oh, that's coming eventually. That's nice, but I wouldn't put money on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's jump a little bit more into the exciting bits of the conversation.
Oh yeah,
I want to know. I want to hear from. This is a big one, so feel free to take some time thinking about it. I want to know though, what is your end vision for say your high capacity cargo run from the Stanton system to the Terra system, talking about the logistics, the processes, the time, like the different ships and people you have to interact with, what would be that full loop that you would have to go through that you hope to see in Star Citizen at some point?
Oh man, that's a logistical nightmare right there.
Oh yeah.
Well, it all really depends on like the cargo. Like most likely you're looking at manufactured goods.
Let's say let's say Hurston's sending some weapons to Terra because Terra's actually getting a little sick of all the pro-Earth people.
Oh yeah, they want to be the capital. But yeah, no. As far as that goes, I mean that's definitely not going to be a solo job right there. That's going to be a mixed group. I mean, obviously you're going to have like your escorts. I feel like piracy doesn't really get touched on enough there. But yeah, so actual escorts. What I would look at before escorts though, scouting, route research. Like back when I'd run like in a group, back when trading was really, really big for us, that's what we would do. Like we would scout the area before bringing in, the cargo ship. Before, after, make sure there's nothing as far as like a tail goes, checking out the area, see if things are spicy. And, having a contact already in Terra would be nice, obviously. But, it really depends. It really depends on the type of ship you're using. I'm going to assume something big, like a whole series.
Yeah.
But yeah, for something like that, it's going to be a mix of planning the route, seeing what all you're passing through, scouting beforehand. Usually, what we would do is send like a small freighter, just kind of like a bait freighter, if you will, just with something trash on it. Yeah, a couple of thousand in UEC. And, if everything was good, then just bring the rest through. Okay. Now, obviously, death of a spaceman, you hire the person you like the least to do that. That's
the replaceable one, red shirts.
Yeah, the intern.
Yeah.
Brian, who's not that good at accounting. Who
been an intern for 2 years, still unpaid. Just take care of it. Exactly.
It's like, hey, Brian, we need you to run this freelancer full of processed food through this super risky route. We'll be right behind you all the way.
Brian's not great at pirates.
Yeah. And then, of course, you let a separate route slip, too. Which was also a tactic we used to use. Like, someone was talking about trade in chat. It's like, oh, yeah, we're moving titanium from Humboldt to Area 18. Meanwhile, you're over in, Aberdeen moving gold to Hurston.
Sure.
But, putting out just an amount of misinformation, just in case, and then having the bait in case that doesn't go through.
Right.
A competent escort. Also, in-ship security. Another thing that I feel like a lot of people used to neglect, and will for a while. Escorts are great. Escorts are fine. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people get on your ship that you don't want. And one of the greatest things you can have is someone who knows how to do FPS, who is already on your ship when that happens.
Right.
Like, a lot of people worry about escorts. They don't worry about in-ship personnel. That's definitely a thing. Like, we used to do that all the time. Like, I had a guy who, oh my goodness, his kill count. Whew. I mean, sometimes it was us too on accident. He wasn't the best when it came to aiming, but he get the job done.
These are in. Like you're talking about FPS missions.
Yeah. Well, like, because back in like 3.4, 3.5, the Caterpillar had this issue where it would spawn without being able to be locked, so like anyone could get on it.
Right. And
so like we'd run trade, but back then you pretty much only had like Olisar to spawn like Caterpillars and things like that. Mm-hmm. So like my org, like we had an entire section devoted to just like ship personnel. So what they would do is, they would literally just staff the ship, patrol the ship, make sure there were no stowaways. And if there were stowaways, then there would be some, personnel restructuring. So yeah, like any sort of like, FPS acumen was definitely highly regarded there. Because there were quite a few stowaways back in the day.
Yeah, I remember. Oh my gosh. Every time you would board your ship, there'd be somebody running behind you.
Exactly.
Ooh, yeah.
And I kind of miss those days, but
Wild West.
Yeah. It's just, because that's the thing. boarding in the game is a thing. People don't feel like it, but listen, like there are tons of pirates out there that make boarding an absolute profession.
Yeah, we don't have the damage model. You can't even disable a ship yet.
Exactly, but you can blow the doors open and get right inside.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys ever see like Mongrel Squad, but premier pirate organization right there. They are effective at getting onto a ship in a non-exploitive way and holding you up for your cargo.
See, it's pretty cool that there are groups that can already do that without the tools to do it. I mean,
exactly.
That's cool.
And like you do your best to avoid them, but the thing about cargo hauling and piracy is that you need to be lucky every single time. They only need to be lucky once. So like you just really have to to watch yourself while you're doing it.
Yeah, piracy is going to be high risk. I really do hope that it's high reward, but we're going to run into the problem we've already seen, which is that people who get pirated don't really consider it piracy, even though it is. They consider it to be, hey, you're not playing the game right, even though they're doing everything the game allows them to do. So normalizing that is going to be an interesting task for CIG to take, but I guess it's going to be highly related to cargo hauling.
Yeah, exactly. And like so back before the scrapyards were accidentally disabled, thanks to CIG, you could actually sell stolen cargo. It wasn't it was kind of a roundabout way.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, so you had to be a rich pirate to do it because you needed either a reclaimer or an 890 jump.
Okay.
But you could park just about any ship on the cargo grid of those, park it at a scrapyard. It would count as that ship's cargo, and then you could sell it. It was tagged as stolen, but you could do it. So, like, say you hijacked a Caterpillar full of titanium. That's like 500,000 credits right there. You had to get on board to do it, but it was high risk, high reward. Now, 9 times out of 10, that Caterpillar pilot's going to self-destruct themselves.
Right.
They're not going to negotiate. There's a lot of pirates out there who try to put the R in parlay, but there's some that just want to shoot and they go, I blew them up, I'm a pirate, and that's what most traders see is the blowing up type, not the I'm in it for the profit type.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a reputation thing that'll fix that, or if that's more of a. I mean, there's gonna have to be something really difficult to get around if you're out there killing people, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm gonna bring them back up again, like the Mongrel Squad guys. I've been held up by them before, but that's more of like that organic reputation. I've been held up by them before. I know that I can get out of this unscathed. Like, we'll negotiate. I'll send them a few thousand credits. I get to get out of here with my cargo. It's not exactly I wouldn't say a pleasant business transaction, but it's amicable, It
works, you're not dead.
Like, I know I can trust them. They know they can trust me. We can get through this, and everyone comes out okay.
Yeah.
A little lighter in the wallet, but I'm not losing 400,000 in cargo.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if yo ho ho Long John Silver shows up and just starts shooting me for no reason, it's like, all right, I don't know if I can negotiate with this guy.
Right.
Then so yeah, like it all depends on that reputation, and I feel like a lot of that reputation is more organic, like what you hear from other players and anything you'll actually see like in game as far as like a stat goes.
Yeah, that could be the case. I mean, definitely for the regular players, people who know the groups that have been around since. I'm talking if we're in 2026, they know the groups who've been around since now 10 years, and they've been in game, and you start to know the names and you recognize them, and you know where they usually hang around. That's going to be pretty cool when we have that sort of extra awareness outside of the game's reputation.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you've even got pirates knocking over other pirates now, like Chaos Squad. They've done some fun work when it comes to piracy too. And sometimes you'll see two different pirate groups converging on the same hit, and like they'll start duking it out. And you gotta go, wow, like it doesn't really matter who wins. I'm still losing, but I wonder which one's going to charge me less.
At least you get the show.
Exactly. You get the light show. You get the fireworks.
So going back to the cargo run from Stanton to Terra, we talked about how you're gonna have to figure out the scouting situation. You're gonna have to get a safe route, fast route, an efficient route. You're going to need multiple people, security, escorts, and you're going to need the market info. What about when you're getting to the area? So in my mind, I'm thinking if you have a hull D and you receive a job from Hurston who says, hey, we've got 10,000 SCU of weapons that we need to send. This is a huge shipment. Once every 2 weeks we do this. So like it's a big job. It's important. And you get that contract. In my mind, what I want to see is the ability for a player to say, it's not necessarily the fact that I'm getting the cargo there, it's that I'm making sure the cargo gets there. So I would love if that player could say, hey, I got this contract, but I could just pass it down to somebody else that I know, who I know can get the cargo there. I'll promise them some of the profit, but technically it's still my job getting completed. Or I want to send 4 rafts out to all the different places that Hurston has to pick up from, so that I don't have to do it. And then they all just bring it to the space station and I take it into my ship and then ship it out there. Is that I mean, like you said, you're fairly new to this as well in this game, but is that something that you've had in your head in terms of what you could see happening, or are you thinking something a little more structured?
No, easily. I mean, because like that's the thing too. I would love to see. Okay, so like you said, like just picking things up between multiple ships, or like subcontracting it out, or delegating it essentially. Right. I don't know if you've played a lot of like Elite Dangerous,
a little bit.
They've got a few types of hauling missions where it's like source X amount of whatever. Mm-hmm. So like a station wants something, and they want you to bring it. They don't really care where you get it. So like you have to go find it yourself, buy it, pick it up, and then bring it there. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see something similar with that, like with that type of mission where it's like, okay, I can get, so and so or whatever group, subcontract it out to them, bring it here, or even pay them to bring it there. I still get the payment, like it's my job. We're just subcontracting or going through a third party to do it. You're still getting the rep, you're still getting the money. You're just paying a bit for someone else to do it. But yeah, I would love to see that, like that type of flexibility in the contract. Like as long as you get it there, you can pursue any way to do it. Mm-hmm.
That's a really good way of doing it. I didn't even think about that. Just give people a request for materials and then tell them to figure out how to do it. That's a super simple way.
Yeah, and Elite's had that for a while, and I wish that Star Citizen would just kind of blatantly steal that.
Well, they're gonna have to. I mean, that's like just a normal market kind of thing, right? Somebody needs something, they ask for it. We have to get that at some point.
You can't copyright a fetch quest,
Yeah. What are you doing? That's like Ubisoft's thing. They would probably take you to the grave if you copyright a fetch quest, because that's like 30% of their missions.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, I have to throw some shade. At least one.
No, you're good. I mean, like when you think about it, it always boils down to fetch quest or kill quest.
Right.
That's like 99% of games.
Yeah. And what I'm really hoping for, and I think a lot of people like about Star Citizen, is that there's opportunity for different kinds of quests than those like cargo hauling, like we're talking about. So
yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was gonna go ahead and switch on over to the economy itself. We haven't talked too much about Quantum. We kind of touched on it briefly, but for just like the last 10 minutes here, I wanted to talk about like what you're getting from how they talk about Quantum. And honestly, given the current selection of like minerals and stuff that we have right now, do you feel like we have enough things that they could create a diverse economy that people wouldn't be asking for more? Or do you think there just needs to be more thrown into the system to create something that people could really spend time on?
I feel like we could be satisfied with what we had as far as like the diversification in commodities, but I would love to see more. I always want to see more. I want to see the economy get to the point where one person can't understand it or manipulate it. You know, I want to see it become not overwhelming, but challenging. Like, again, for example, 90% of the routes we have right now are just outpost to main port city. I would love to see port city to port city, or, station to station, or reasons to do routes that we don't have right now.
Right.
And, I feel like Quantum can help a lot with that. I mean, even if they just had like basic materials going out to stations for, refits or whatever, having a reason to go, oh, hey, this R&R is paying extra for titanium. I'm going to do that for a while. Or, oh, they had a gas leak. They're all out of hydrogen. Let's run this hydrogen for extra money. Because like right now, the prices are really static. Like everyone pretty much pays the same for everything. So there's no reason for me to take titanium from Ariel to Area 18 when I can just take it next door to Lorville for the same price. But if there's like some news blurb in game where it's like, oh, Area 18 manufacturing ramping up for, RTX 3080s or whatever needs more titanium.
Oh, please.
Yeah. No, I'm on a 1070 myself. I'm still waiting for something to be available. But if it's like, hey, they're paying extra for titanium, it's like, you know what? I'll go an extra 30 million kilometers to get that payoff. Yeah, it's going to take me a little bit longer. I could have taken it next door, but they're paying more. Right. And to have a shifting economy, that's what I want to see. Because right now, it's 100% player decided. Like, it's dynamic, but it's still static in that dynamic state. Like, the highs, the lows, and all the prices are pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. There's a slight difference in some of the refresh rates or like demand, but there's no real reason to change your routes up unless you just want a change of scenery. And that's what hurts the most.
That's what I've noticed. So going to that sort of, getting to that end goal of quantum economy, dynamic system, and like all these things that we've talked about, what are the kind of things that you've seen on like the roadmap, the progress tracker that they've talked about, that are steps towards getting there? Like, is there anything coming up soon that you are interested in that you think is going to push it besides the hangars that we talked about and the cargo refactor?
I haven't actually seen a lot. It's weird because out of all the professions that Star Citizen has, they keep really quiet on trade. And I don't know if that's like a conscious thing or if it's because the nature of trade, they want to keep people guessing. Because like, with mining is also one of those like static things. Like, you come up to a rock, you see some borace, like, oh, I know what I can make.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing about trade is it's one of those things where it's a gamble. You show up, you make $1 million, or you might break even. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like I don't want to say they're neglecting it. I don't want to say that. I feel like that's being overly pessimistic. But I feel like there's that mystery with trade that they're trying to keep. And the more you know about the economy or trade in general, the more you can exploit it. I mean, that's just how it goes.
Yeah, that's fair.
A new player coming to the game is going to buy like 3 SU of medical supplies in their Aurora, try to sell it at another outpost, and wonder why they're making $1. But when they actually learn how to do things, I say that they're not actually going to make anything in an Aurora, but that's CIG's fault, not the player's fault. They don't have high value goods in yet.
Yeah.
But I feel like the nature of trading in Star Citizen is self-discovery. Like, you have to learn the knowledge to exploit it. And I'm going to hope that's the theme they're keeping to instead of just being neglect. But they haven't really talked about trade a lot on like progress tracker or things in general.
I really do hope that you're right. Because they are surprisingly quiet about it. It would be cool if it's on purpose and they're trying to just make it a system that we just don't have the insight about. And that's a good point too as we move forward and continue on with these different professions and gameplay types. It's like, how much are they going to tell us that goes deep down to the actual core of the aspects that we're talking about, or the core of the gameplay we're talking about, versus how much are they going to leave up to mystery, and how much will they start to increase that mystery as we get closer to launch?
Exactly. Like, actually, I've got an example. As far as like them keeping mum about things, Okay, so you remember during last Invictus, back in April or May, whenever it was.
Yeah.
They had those special trade goods, like the audio visual equipment,
The fireworks and stuff.
Yeah. Well, they actually had those in the journal too, so you could actually see what the prices were in various places. And they listed all of them except one. So helium was a thing in the game as well. And I forget what the price of it was, but like it was okay, like it was an all right commodity, but it wasn't the best thing. They just happened to have it for Invictus. And it was listed in the trade journal. However, there was one location that sold helium all of a sudden that was not listed in the trade journal, and it was $1 cheaper, which gave it an astronomical profit and profit margin. And it was at Humboldt Mines, which is a very hard place to land. There's no landing pad. It's pretty much all up in the mountains. Very difficult to land a bulk hauler at, unless you've just, exactly how to perch it. But, I'm out in the trade lanes and everyone's trading all this stuff. I'm like, you know what? I like Humboldt. Let's go pick up some titanium. And there's helium there, super cheap. Like a full $1 cheaper than what's listed in the trade journal. And it's not listed in the trade journal at all. So, I feel like they at least have that history of putting things in there for people to discover. And, of course, once I found it and blabbed about it, then the price started going up a bit because other people were trading. It's like, oh man, I can get all this helium. It's super cheap. I can make all this money. Like we were making the same profit as like audio visual equipment with like 1/10 of the investment risk. Wow,
that's pretty nice.
It was cool. Great. But they gave no hints about it. I kind of feel like maybe someone put that in there just for things to be discovered. That's half the fun. Is finding the route and learning it yourself so you can actually exploit it.
That's what it's all about. That's pretty cool. So I wanted to finish up then with hearing your opinion on the latest dynamic event that's coming up, which is a very cargo-focused event, and is inspired by one of the greatest cargo happenings of all time in Star Citizen's history. And that is Jumptown 2.0 or V2, whatever they're calling it, that's coming up. What are your thoughts on this? How do you feel it compares to the old version, and do you think it's a good one?
Oh boy, that's a question right there.
We might go a little funny. Long, people.
Okay, so the original Jumptown is actually how I got into cargo out of spite.
Okay. Best way to get introduced to something.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about the original Jumptown, it wasn't even an event. It just happened.
Yeah.
There was zero CIG input on that. They just had some really good prices for Widow.
Right.
And it turns out that people like buying drugs, and there are people that also like shooting the people that buy those drugs. And that was like 3.4 or 3.5. Back then, there wasn't really a lot of money to be made. And
not much
there were
to
massive.
spend it on.
Exactly, like you could buy ship components, but if you lost your ship, those components did not persist. So there were massive credit sinks. And Widow selling drugs was one of the best ways to make money, as long as you could sit there long enough to fill up and leave, with your ship intact.
Yeah.
But my biggest worry is that CIG is going to cash in on the fame of Jumptown without duplicating what made it great, which was, the drug smuggling, the being able to actually sell the drugs. Like, for example, right now, you can't even sell most drugs. Because, like, the scrapyards are all offline. You can't sell to any of the scrapyards. Neon goes to, like, one location. You can sell Widow at one location. So that's everyone in the game across all servers competing for like 6 SCU of demand of Widow at Grim Hex. And maybe I'm just being pessimistic, but I'm hoping CIG can address those for the event. Now, that might not have anything to do with it. It might not have anything to do with actually selling the drugs. It might just be like, hey, bring us this generic, stock so we can make the drugs. And, Krusek is like, hey, shoot these guys carrying the drugs. It might be something else entirely.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at the release, it says talking about having both legal and illegal missions for Jumptown 2.0. So it's going to be a mission-based system for something.
It's definitely inspired by.
Yeah.
They're not trying to replicate the feeling, but I do think that you make a good point in that it feels a little bit wrong to use the name in that way, and I think it probably sets the expectations up in the wrong way as well. I think this could have been a great chance to honestly go after what started Jumptown 2.0. Maybe the game's not ready for that, but just to try and throw this event without making a big announcement and fuss about it, like with Xenothreat and Ninetales. Maybe they're planning on doing that with another one. Maybe the dynamic event system isn't far enough along yet for that, but it's going to be interesting to see what this actually does for them besides just testing out a new event type.
Exactly. And I love to put my foot in my mouth over it, like I want to be wrong. Because like Xenothreat was great. They did a good job with Xenothreat.
Mm-hmm.
And like they're the thing that hurts me about the Jumptown 2.0 is they loved Jumptown so much that in 3.5 they killed it. Like, man, you guys really love Jumptown. We're going to add in all these other drug labs. But in doing so, they killed Jumptown because now there were options to go elsewhere. And it was fairly easy to get into a drug lab, buy your stuff, and get out because there were like 3 or 4 new drug labs now.
Yeah, and nobody to buy them.
Exactly. And that's what made it great. And I'm hoping they realize that. I'm hoping they realize, making that focal point in the area where everyone has to go there and then rub elbows or shoot each other to get that profit. Because like that's actually how I got into trade. I got so fed up with Jumptown that I said, screw it. I'm going to go see how much money I can make doing legal trade. And it turned out that even with the abysmally low profit margin, you could make more per hour doing legal trade than you could during Widow during 3.5. And that's what got me into it.
I see.
Like I got into trade out of spite. I got so fed up with running drugs that I tried legal cargo and found out I could make more.
He went straight. I'm happy for you.
Exactly. It's like, this Widow is whack. I'm getting out of this. We're gonna haul some Agricium.
I'm gonna be a respectable trader.
But like that was the great thing about Widow. Like if you had a tiny ship, you could still make money.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great thing about drugs. Like if Jiggy Two Snipe shows up with his Aurora MR and he buys 3 SCU of Widow, he could still make money in a short amount of time. You can't do that anymore.
We need to get high value
exactly
cargo.
And like I feel like we need a legal option for that as well. Because like, not everyone wants to pedal slam out of the back of their Mustang.
Yeah. And we also need I feel like we can't do high value cargo until we have high cost of running ships, or else people are just going to load Starlifters with high value cargo and stuff.
Exactly. Like that's the big issue with Laranite. They say that Laranite is supposed to be that high value thing, but they put it at outposts that have bulk commodities. So obviously the bulk ships show up, they just buy whatever they can of Laranite, pat it out with the next bulk commodity of titanium or tungsten, and then take off. And there's nothing for the little guys. Like if they stuck that at Humboldt or Loveridge or places that only have like a non-bulk alternative, it would be fine.
Is that the solution you see to allowing for high value things to be traded? Because I was wondering, if you're making all this high value market where people can transport cool things in small ships like Avengers and stuff, how do you keep all those big ships from taking it all?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I know I keep coming back to Humboldt, but like Humboldt would be my perfect example. Because again, yeah, like it's super hard to land at. There's no pads. It's just it's all mountain. Like it's very like you can get a Caterpillar or a C2 there, but you got to be careful to do it. Now you can land a small ship there, no problem. Like Elite actually solved this with their pad system for their trading, because they have outposts that can only support like small ships, medium ships, and while you won't make the same amount of money as you would in like a large hauler, the profit margin and overall profit is still better. So it's not equal, but it's comparable, and
makes people make a choice.
Exactly. And now the way Star Citizen works, as long as you're within 250 meters of a terminal, you can buy to it, which kinda shuts that down.
Yeah.
Now, once the cargo refactor comes online and you actually have to land and manually load all this stuff up, that actually might change.
They just need to artificially limit where those ships can land.
Exactly. Like, I can load those 3 boxes into an Aurora at Humboldt, but doing it in a C2, that's going to take a day, you know?
Yeah.
And versus like SCD1 where you've got flat pads right next to the admin building. So yeah, I'm hoping that physicalization will help that too, where they can restrict that to the smaller ships.
That'll be good. That's going to add a lot to the game, and I hope that doesn't get delayed anymore. Looking forward to it.
I remember when we were going to have it in 2020.
Oh god, I remember we were going to have salvage and repair in 2020, in 2018, and 2019.
Answer the call 2016.
Yeah, let's not talk dates. That's just a sad conversation.
That's fair. Yeah,
but
that's fair.
This has been a great freaking conversation. Jack, I'd like to thank you
I've enjoyed this
so much for joining me for another episode of the Launch Sequence podcast, dude. It's been a blast. This has been cool. I hope we can continue to meet up and just talk about this topic, because I have nobody cargo in my life. I mean, I do. I have a lot of people. I promise, I know you guys. I see you. I got tons of cargo people in my life, but I always need more. So I hope we can continue to catch up and just chat about Star Citizen, man.
Yeah, man, it's been great fun. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. And thanks to all our supporters who are actually listening live right now. If you decide to ever join Patreon, which is the main way that we support this podcast and keep it ad-free for everybody in the audio podcast, you do get the chance to hop on this podcast live, check it out, talk to the guests before and after, or rather, mostly after, and I guess benefit from some of the other perks. We're doing a big rework here at the end of the year, so maybe check that out. Also, definitely check out the YouTube channel. We're putting out a video about the Raft, which is a new ship that'll be focusing on cargo a little bit, so you might be interested in that. But besides all that, I'd just like to thank everybody for being here for 28 episodes so far. It's been a blast. I've had a blast. And one last time, Jack, just like to thank you for being here.
Hey, man, like I said, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Well, everybody, I've been your host, Keenan. This has been the Launch Sequence Podcast, and we will see you next week.